What is zero beating on CW, how not to do it, and how to make your POTA CW activators a lot happier? Coming up. Zero beating on CW. What is it? It's when you transmit on the exact same frequency as the CW operator that you're trying to make a contact with. That's all it is when you transmit on the exact same frequency as the other person sending CW. When is zero beating okay? In POTA, almost never. I'll go ahead and say never in POTA when you're trying to contact an activator. If you're just rag chewing with somebody, not POTA related, and you're just having a one-on-one rag chew, it's okay to zero beat in that situation because there's only two people involved in that conversation. So you know when it's not you talking because you're not sending. The other person knows it's not them or somebody else talking because there's only two people involved in the conversation. So if you're having a one-on-one CW rag chew, it's okay to zero beat because there's only two people involved. The problem is when there's more than two people involved, a la a POTA activation, when everybody zero beats, remember that's you transmit on the exact same frequency as the activator is transmitting on. To the activator on his side, he can't tell who is who because everybody's transmitting at the same frequency, which makes it the same tone to the activator. So it sounds like one big mumbo-jumboed mess. Let me drop down to the desktop here in my handy-dandy paint program so you can see my awesome drawing skills. And I'll try to give you a visual representation of what zero beating is. All right, let me see if I can explain zero beating here in kind of a graphical term. Let me draw just a little shape here. You got notch, your filters on either side. Let's just say this is 300 hertz wide. Okay, excuse my drawing here. This will be the center of that 300 hertz. And this is where your activator is going to be transmitting. So let's just say this is 14,040 is where the activator is transmitting. If a lot of people come in and transmit on this same frequency to the activator, it's going to sound like the same pitch. Everybody's going to run together and it's going to be very hard for him to hear anything. If you transmit a little bit off frequency, up or down, the pitch of your tone is going to be different to the activator. So let's say you decide to transmit right here as the hunter, and let's say that is 14,040.08. My drawing skills rock, I know. If everybody else is piled up right here and the activator just hears a bunch of mumbo jumbo, your tone here is going to be higher to the activator. He's going to be able to hear you a lot better and you're going to stand out from the crowd. Likewise, if you decide to transmit lower as a hunter, and let's say this is 14,039.94, your pitch to the activator is going to be lower and you're going to stand out. Your tone is going to stand out from the rest of this big mumbo jumbo pileup right here in the center. It's going to help the activator try to pick you out of the pile, and it's going to make it so they can just hear you better. So don't transmit directly on the activator's frequency because you're going to get hammered and jumbled in with everybody else, and the activator is not going to be able to hear you very well. Shift up or shift your transmit frequency down to stand out a little bit. Most activators I know, their overall bandwidth, which is my little drawing right here, the overall bandwidth that they're listening to is probably about 300 hertz, give or take, you know, how busy the bands are. So you got quite a big margin that you can move up or down. Some activators hear better with the pitch higher. Some activators will hear better with the pitch lower. You'll learn that the more you work a certain activator, what pitch they hear better. So experiment going up or down off of the center frequency that the activator is spotted on so you don't zero beat. Let's go over different radio configurations and how to set up different radios. We'll look at ICOM and a Yaesu, and I'll show you how not to zero beat on those particular brands. Gotta love my drawing skills. On the Yaesu radios, every Yaesu radio I've seen recently anyway, maybe old Yaesu radios might be different, but the terminology is basically going to be the same. You're looking for your transmit clarifier. Now, first, let me explain why you want to use a transmit clarifier for a Yaesu, the transmit delta for an ICOM, or other radios might call it XIT, like the Elecraft radios or XIT. What these three options do is when you transmit, it will offset your transmit frequency by whatever amount that you input into the transmit clarifier, the transmit delta, or the XIT. It only changes your transmit frequency, not your receive frequency, which is important. You can not zero beat by moving your VFO. If you want to move your VFO up or down a little bit to get off of the center frequency of a CW operator, that's fine too. The problem is when you move your VFO, it also changes your receive frequency, so it changes the pitch in your ear that you hear as well. If you use transmit clarifier on the Yaesu, transmit delta on the ICOM, or XIT on Elecraft or other radios, your receive frequency will stay the same, but when you transmit, you'll be transmitting on the offset that you put into either the transmit clarifier, the transmit delta, or the XIT. So you can do it either way. I prefer to use the transmit clarifier, transmit delta on ICOM, or XIT on Elecraft and other radios because my receive will stay the same, but my transmit will be different. So that's how you do it on big name radios: transmit clarifier on Yaesu, transmit delta on ICOM, and XIT on Elecraft, and probably a lot of other brands as well. Let's see what zero beating sounds like. Let's see what it sounds like when you don't zero beat, which will give you a good reason why I'm bringing this up. So let's look at a recording that I made of an activation last night of my good buddy Steven, Kilo Delta 9 Uniform Delta Victor, and I recorded some of his pileup and to show you the good and the bad part about it, and you'll see why I'm talking about zero beating and why to the activator it can be a mess. Let's listen. All right, here's a recording that I made last night off my radio of Kilo Delta 9 Uniform Delta Victor pileup, and I'm going to show you what zero beating sounds like to the activator and a couple of examples of people who did not zero beat and how they stood out in this pileup. So first, let's just listen to what a zero beat pileup sounds like to the activator. That's crazy. It all went together. And if you're really, really strong, you can get over that and the activator is going to hear you. But for the most part, all that kind of melded together and it was hard to make anybody else hear. Let's fast forward just a little bit to another pileup where somebody stood out very well because they were lower in frequency. They did a transmit delta down or a transmit clarifier or XIT, whatever your radio calls it. They did it downwards, and this happens to be Whiskey 1 Whiskey Charlie, and he did a very good job. Just listen how he breaks through this pileup with all the other mumbo jumbo. It's going to be a lower pitch than the rest of them. He's going to stand out really good here. Heard him plain as day, even through all the rest of the pileup. Good job there. Let's listen to that again. Whiskey 1 and Whiskey Charlie transmits down, and you can hear him through the pileup. That is what non-zero beating will get you. It'll let you bust through that pileup a lot better here. An example of me, I made a contact with Steven here, and I will show you. Should be about 344. Okay, and before I hit play here, notice my screen. Right here on my screen, it says Clair TX, so my transmit clarifier is on, and I am plus 80 hertz. Plus 80 hertz. So let's listen to my exchange here with Steven, and I'm not zero beating, I am up plus 80 hertz here. So to everybody else who was listening to that, I was higher pitch than the center frequency that Steven was on. And the pileup after that, right back to zero beating. Listen to this mess. There's somebody in there that's really high that did stand out. I heard different pitches here. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's look at somebody who did not zero beat and used a higher pitch, or did a transmit clarifier, transmit delta, or XIT upwards, and how his pitch is higher than the rest of them. This happens to be alpha delta 2 delta delta, and he stands out from this zero beated pileup very well. Listen for the higher pitch here. It's going to be alpha delta 2 delta delta, and how easy this would be for an activator to pick that out of a pile. Right there. Notice how he's higher pitch. Very good job right there of not zero beating for sure. And let's listen to the pileup after his QSO, which goes right back to a lot of people that are zero beating, and you can hardly make anything out. Notice how his pitch is up, very clear and easy to understand. Even through a little bit of QRM there from the contest, you can still hear him. All right, his QSO's over. Let's listen to another zero beat pileup. Crazy. The moral of the story here is do not zero beat a CW activator on POTA or SOTA, or really any other type of situation where a lot of different people are going to be calling the same person, because it lets that person differentiate different tones and associate it with different people. If everybody zero beats, as you just heard, it sounds like just one big long tone of mumbo jumbo garbled mess. But if you separate yourself from the group by either shifting your transmit down or shifting your transmit up, which will in effect change your pitch of what the activator hears, you're going to stand out. You're going to be able to bust more CW pileups, and you'll just be a better overall CW activator, excuse me, a CW hunter on POTA, and you'll make your POTA CW activators a lot happier. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button below. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, be good.